Hello, everyone. I trust you have had a great start to the day. Let's keep the energy flowing as we dive into our next session after our previous keynote. Our next session focuses on a critical question for the future of automotive security. How do we prepare for the quantum era? And today's vehicles rely heavily on classical cryptography for functions like ECU integrity protection, secure communication, and access control. But once the quantum computing reaches maturity, these measures could quickly become obsolete. The challenge is clear. We need strategies to transition toward quantum secure systems, and we need to start planning now. To guide us through this, we are joined by Dennis Nayok, consultant for automotive security at ITAS, with a strong background in applied cryptography and embedded systems, and the research experience in post quantum cryptography and the side channel attacks. Dennis is helping the automotive industry address these next generation security challenges. So please let's welcome Dennis Nyox for his talk, Post-Quantum Cryptography in Automotive, a Strategy Proposal. Dennis, stage to you.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my talk for post-quantum cryptography in automotive. And I think we can jump right into it. Let's start with some introduction slides. Looking at the timeline, it starts all back in the 1970s, where the theory of asymmetric cryptography was invented, even before it was usable on any personal computers or widely used at all. But even though it wasn't widely used in the 1990s, two smart guys came up with quantum algorithms to break this cryptography already, also without any computation at hand. And now, if we are looking at the increased system complexity and increasing advances in quantum computing, we have to ask ourselves, does there come a time where a scalable quantum computer is available? And is this a concern for us? How do we deal with it? And this should be the content of today's presentation. Okay, now if we ask where is it in the field of automotive security, the simple answer is it's everywhere. Here we can see an example communication flow for an average car in the future. Vehicles are able to communicate with each other or with the backend or the cloud or with a number of applications such as software updates, infotainment, fleet management, whatsoever. All of those rely on digital signatures and certificates, which is actually the main concern looking at the presence of quantum computing. Okay, so I don't want to dive too deep into the capabilities of a quantum computer or have a mathematical lecture about it. So we just have a look at what is the effect on us, what is the quantum threat. Because classical symmetric algorithms will be weakened. Looking, for example, at our AES standard, we have the possibility to increase its key size, double it basically, which would already help with a quantum computer inside. Same goes for hash functions. We already have a standard available for this, increasing the bit size, so it wouldn't be that much of an issue looking at it from the standardization process point. What is then really the concern is that the asymmetric algorithms will be obsolete. So everything that we are used to, RSA or elliptic curve cryptography, this mathematical problems will be solved by a quantum computer. So it is completely broken. Now, also how I structured the slides and this presentation is we will have a look at two different questions. The first one is to when do we handle the whole situation? And the second one is then, and I guess the most interesting one, how can we handle the situation? And then for the first question, I only see three possible answers, now, later, and not at all. And at the end, you might see that not at all shouldn't be the answer, even though it's a possibility. And then how can we handle the situation? There are two simple steps. The first one is to develop new algorithms, which is actually a very hard task. We will have a look at the research that's going on at the NIST competition and the national recommendations. And then after that, we have to migrate our existing security systems, but we have to find out how we can do that, what will be our strategy. Okay, when do we handle the situation? So to properly answer this question, we need to understand that quantum computing as a research topic still has a lot of problems currently being solved. Consequently, there is a very high level of uncertainty when a breakthrough is going to happen. There's an, now pretty old survey from 2021, which was conducted among universities and companies and some research centers. When will a quantum computer be able to break RSA 2048? And if you look at this timeline, you can see, okay, the certainty looking at in 25 years that there will be a quantum computer gets very high. But we have to rely on predictions and what is generally going on in the market. And looking at what is going on in the market, we can see that there are things happening. Companies are shifting to post-quantum algorithms. But also what I would like to highlight here is we need also to be very careful of what we are reading. This last line here, for example, China breaks RSA encryption. If you only read the title, you might panic, but then looking at the article itself, it says that they were able to break an RSA with 22 bits, which is still very far from 2048, but still it shows there are advances and we have to do something. Okay, so how do we make the decision of when to act? And a theorem that's often used here is Mosca's theorem, which basically says you have a product lifetime and you have some migration time, which are both factors that you can plan for. And then you have some uncertainty with quantum computing. And the main message here should be just don't let the technology get ahead of your timeline. You can deal with the uncertainty by doing something right now, meaning that you plan ahead. So we can do that because we have tools at our hand. The NIST competition is going on for a while. There are encryption and signature schemes available since last year. Also, there was some early selections for signature schemes. And we do have recommendations from national institutes, like the BSI, for example, which is a German authority, but also from the NIST. And from this year, there's also a European roadmap for transition, doing recommendations of how do you deal with the topic, what should we do. And now we have the remaining problem because the algorithm selection is actually still ongoing. And there is no scheme that fulfill all our requirements, which are as easy to use as elliptic curve cryptography, for example. And the crypto is pretty new. So there needs to be confidence in this crypto, which can only grow over the years. Looking at RSA, for example, which is around since the 1970s, this is a very short time for schemes which only came up a couple of years ago. So the recommendation would be act now and then wait. Also looking at what the NIST pronounced or published, that in 2035 they will not approve RSA or ECDSA anymore, but they see it as deprecated. So now we ask, do we really have the benefit of waiting longer, or do we rather act now and be ready once it gets serious? Okay, let's have a short look at what was going on at the NIST. So basically, they wanted to find candidates in two different groups, key encapsulation and digital signature schemes. and those had to be based on new mathematical primitives. So lattice-based, hash-based, and code-based are the most famous ones here, compared to RSA, for example, which is based on factorization and will be broken. This competition is going on almost close to 10 years now, and the goal was to boost the research and get some algorithms which are comparable to what we are used to nowadays. So we'll also have this 128 to 256 bit security, the level of security. Okay, so now we have a lot of standards. The standards that were selected last year, key encapsulation, we have Kyber, Dilithium, Sphinx Plus, and Falcon for signature schemes. And then we also had this early selection in 2019, which I like to call the choice of the impatient. These stateful signature schemes have some disadvantages when it comes to sizes, basically. There is a limit to signatures they can produce, basically. And then there was another algorithm selected this year, which is HQC as another key encapsulation mechanism to have an alternative to Kyber. And to make things worse, there is a new competition going on just for signature schemes, so that we have further candidates, and there are currently also 14 in selection. And there are also national competitions, but I don't want to go on here. The thing is, we have a lot of things we can choose from, and the question now is, what do we do with that? And the answer would be the optimal choice very much depends on your application. So the reason for multiple standards is that they are not easily applicable. They have very big advantages and disadvantages. Like I said, there is no jack of all trades. And efficiency of implementation is still a topic that is in scientific research. So looking at those algorithms, we really have to look at the attributes like runtime, key size, code size, and so on, and check, okay, how does it fit together with our application? That's also something that we did 2 years ago at the eSCAR paper, if you're interested. It's linked in here. And then post-quantum crypto is still young, so the confidence still has to increase over time, and you should also be ready to have a fallback solution, which makes things worse. There are many algorithms, and now you are also obligated to have a fallback solution, but that's also the reason why there are so many standards. NIST didn't want to rely only on lattice-based crypto, but also wanted, for example, a code-based algorithm like HQC. So now for each application, you should do some in-depth use case analysis and ask yourself what kind of hardware is used, how high is the workload, and so on and so on. So then let's have a look at an example. We did a performance benchmark on an TC375, and I used this to underline my statement. We have the two algorithms here, Falcon and Dilithium. I labeled them as level 1, which would be the level 1 security level, compared to 128 bits security nowadays. And then we have those three sub-algorithms, key generation, signing, and verification of the signature. And we can see here from the picture that key generation for Falcon is very, very slow. Also signing compared to Dilithium, but when it comes to verification, Falcon is actually very efficient. If we now have a look at secure boot, we know, okay, we need to sign our software, most likely somewhere in the backend. And then the software is flashed on an ECU, and during the boot process, we do a signature verification. And if we now look at the application, we know, okay, most likely there will be an increase in memory consumption, most likely there will be an increase in boot duration. We can't do anything about it. It's just post-quantum algorithms. But then comparing those two algorithms, Falcon and Dilithium, we know that Falcon is very much faster in the verification, as you can see on the right, and also it requires less memory, actually. And as we do not care so much about key generation and signing for secure boot as it happens in the back end, we know that Falcon would be the preferred choice for this case, beating Dilithium for this kind of application. Okay, let's have a short look at this one here. I wanted to show you the differences in key sizes and signature sizes. So for different algorithms, namely Falcon, Dilithium, Sphinx, and RSA and ECDSA as classical examples, I show you here 3 bars, one for public key, one for private, and one for signature. And we know that for RSA and ECDSA, as you can see on the right, those key and signature sizes are pretty low. Looking at Falcon and Dilithium and the different security levels, we can see, okay, it's way higher. And if we increase the security level of Falcon and Dilithium, it's even higher. And now looking at the middle, at Sphinx Plus, we can see that public and private key size is actually very, very small, which would be great if we are looking for small key sizes. But then we have to compare the signature size, which can be ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, you can see it in the graph. The signature size for Sphinx Plus is just beyond imagination sometimes. So Sphinx has 2 flavors: fast signature generation, which is always labeled with an F, and small signatures. You can say, okay, let's go to the smaller signatures, and then it's not that bad. Yeah, still bad compared to the other ones, but not that bad. But for fast signature generation, Sphinx Plus is 60 times faster in key generation and about 20 times faster in signing. So you can really make a difference here by choosing the parameters correct. Okay, now let's continue with solutions that we need for the migration. And there are a lot of ideas here. And for this next slide, the aim is to give you an idea about possible solutions of what is being discussed in ongoing research. This is just a summary of possibilities, and for specific use cases and systems, it very much depends on the specific requirements which need to be analyzed. So in this example, I would like just to talk about PKI migration, and show you those 3 different possibilities that we have here. So the first one would be parallel PKI. What do I mean? It's basically the straightforward solution. You just set up a parallel PKI, which relies on post-quantum crypto, and then you let the old one fade out and shift to the new one. Not very sophisticated. So another idea then would be to have a mixed PKI, meaning that you only, for example, exchange the root certificate with a post-quantum algorithm, and that the lower entities then still rely on classical algorithms. And here the idea would be, if a quantum computer is available, most likely it will not be for everyone, but only for large-scale attackers, for example, and they would be interested in breaking the root and not single vehicles, for example. Of course, the lower entities would still have to be able to verify somehow the signature of the post-quantum algorithm in the root, and this is something you have to deal with. And there we have the idea of hybrid certificates. Also, there are two different ideas. The first one would be to go for a concatenated certificate, saying that, okay, you have some signature on there and you combine a quantum algorithm with a classical algorithm. Or the other idea would be to have it nested, meaning that you sign your data with a post-quantum signature and wrap this one into a classical signature. And here you would have the benefit of backward compatibility. So an entity which is not able to verify the post-quantum signature would still be able to use the classical signature for verification. But those entities which are capable could already use the new signature. And then you have this certainty of the classical ones by testing the maturity of the post-quantum signature. Okay. Another solution that's around is crypto agility, which in itself is a pretty big word, meaning that you can exchange and adapt your cryptographic schemes without interrupting the running system, or have at least as less interruptions as possible. We can split crypto agility up into different categories. First one would be protocol agility. What do I mean by that? So allowing multiple cryptographic algorithms in a protocol, and I like to use TLS and the X509 digital certificate standard to show the flexibility that is there, because in TLS you have some handshake where you negotiate the algorithm with the communication partner, and then in a certificate you can simply exchange an algorithm. But this is not true for every protocol that is used. So TLS and X509 is already pretty flexible, but not all protocols are agile in their nature and require just more adjustments than necessary for this example here. The next one is crypto agility, design agility, meaning that when you think about your new system, you already think about crypto agility. Pretty straightforward idea, very general statement, but security by design would also be a keyword in this context. Really put this into focus when designing your system. Then we have the category of hardware agility. Crypto algorithms are often accelerated with the help of some dedicated hardware, like hash accelerators, for example, used for classical algorithms. Those hash accelerators can also already be used for some post-quantum schemes. Like, for example, Sphinx Plus is a hash-based algorithm, heavily based on hashes, as you can imagine. So the accelerators that are already there can also be used for post-quantum schemes. And there is a lot of research also going on in this direction. Also, for example, having a hybrid instruction set to speed up lattice-based crypto, or some hardware implementation for HQC, for example. So there are a lot of things going on in research for having this hardware agility. And the last one would be API agility, meaning that you basically have this plug-in structure and easy exchange of algorithms without having the developer bother about it. So develop usable and agile crypto agilities so that you have an easy configuration of security levels and key length, and maybe also algorithms, without having to make big changes to your code. Okay. So now we have seen some tools, and now we have to have a look at how do we use this step by step. And I will use this flowchart here, meaning that you start with detection. You should know what kind of algorithms or cryptographic inventory do you have in your system. And then you can go ahead and think about prioritization, meaning what do you use those crypto for? Do you need to do the shift now, or maybe you can wait another 10 years? What is the urgency of your migration? What kind of data are you trying to protect? What the threat and risk analysis would be the main word here. And after that, you can figure out what your approach is. We have seen some solutions, and you really should have a look at it and sort out, okay, for this use case, I can use lattice-based crypto, which would be most feasible for me. And then for the integration, you can already start to do some proof of concepts. And then in the end, that you are ready to do your migration when everything is there and when there is a necessity to do the migration. So for the detection part, like I said, you should do a use case analysis, like we've seen for Secure Boot, for example. Really find out what your inventory is, what are the requirements, what would be the replacement. And then you should do some risk assessments and determine the urgency of your migration. And then you might also want to consider that there might be this store now and decrypt later attack, meaning that an attacker could already store the data, and then what would be the impact of decrypting it once a quantum computer is available. And then also think early about your hardware replacement. There are long development times and replacement takes some time, so really plan ahead for that. And then you can continue and evaluate your possible solutions. Like I didn't mention it before, but maybe it's more efficient to use pre-shared keys now, looking at the inefficiency of post-quantum schemes. Maybe symmetric solutions are better now for certain applications. And then we have seen some possibilities for hybrid solutions that we could apply, or then in the end, also crypto agility, which is not only looking at post-quantum crypto, but also at classical algorithms, always beneficial to have. Okay, so this is the main message. Your migration should start with the planning, and you really should determine a general strategy for this. So not only procedural, but then also technical. And what do I mean by that? So setting up a plan of procedure. As quantum computing really is a research topic, it could also be a strategy to say, okay, I have a look at the situation every year. So I have this re-evaluation schedule, and really set the basis for decision making. So think now, what are the factors that I should have a look at every year, say like this, and also already allocate the resources to be able to do this transition. And maybe you also already want to generate or adjust some processes and policies within your company. Talk to your suppliers for a joint transition, and consider that there might be some certifications in your systems which you also have to go through. So really set up a plan. How long does it take to do the shift? What are the factors for my decision making? And also think about the technical part, meaning you should go ahead and implement proof of concepts to increase expertise and also then gain the confidence that there will be a smooth migration once it is a necessity. Okay, following the flowchart I've already showed you. All right. So then I already come to my summary. So as I said in the beginning, the recommendation is the act now and wait. What I already said, plan your migration, and then overcome the challenges once the threat becomes more real. And you should do that by really analyzing and determining and setting everything up. So there is no surprise in the end for you. All right. Then this is the end of my presentation. Thanks a lot. And I think I'm ready to take some questions. Shama, you're on mute. Yeah.
Sorry, I was on mute. Dennis, thank you so much. I will bring questions one by one. One I have brought it here. So in regards of Falcon, you mentioned less RAM consumption. So is it still true for embedded system without double precision FP? So what's your take on this?
Is this still true for embedded systems without double precision FPU? I don't think I can answer that, to be honest. I mean, the comparison is for dilithium, and then if you don't have this double precision, dilithium would also be slower. So, I mean, not slower, but yeah, have this issue very much the same as Falcon.
Okay. Thank you, Dennis. I'll have another question. Would it be possible to integrate the evaluation phase of the migration process as a part of Tara to provide continuous evaluation even during development phases?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I mentioned risk assessment, and Tara is absolutely a good tool for this. I mean, for the European market, for example, you have to do it anyway as part of your CSMS. And doing this quantum risk Tara, integrating it into what you're already doing in your assessments and then consider it is absolutely a good way to do that. Yes.
Thank you. I have another question. So audiences keep dropping the questions. They already love your presentation. Do you know about any embedded hardware already supports hardware acceleration for any PQC algorithm?
Yes. So I've shown in some of my slides that there were research going on for things. Yeah. For example, there are some things happening for FPGAs where you have this agility implemented or ideas for it. And of course, you always have the hash accelerators, which are already around. So for things like Strings Plus, which heavily rely on hashes, they can already be used. So.
Thank you. Let me just quick check on the chat as well if any questions are there. Okay, I have one more. Can you see it? Can you please share how EU roadmap on transition to PQC looks like?
Yes, I can. So, I mean, it's public, so you can have a look at it yourself, but I can summarize it a little bit for you. Basically, they have 3 steps, and they say that till the end of 2026, you should have an idea of what you are doing. So it's very similar to what I proposed here of doing the planning, priorization, and so on. They also say that you should go into collaboration with communities to have an idea how to adjust things, also join standardization groups discussing those things, so that at the end of next year you really already have a plan. And then for step 2 and 3, it's what was more at the end of my flow chart is then really going for proof of concepts and migration.
Thank you. We have another question. Do you know if there any TPM, trusted platform module, planned for incorporating post-quantum cryptography?
I don't have a specific example, to be honest. I know that there's work going on also in our company with our products, but I cannot share anything specific with you.
Good. We have another question. What types of attacks specifically target embedded cryptographic mechanisms is in connected vehicles?
Embedded crypto and connected vehicles. Okay, so I mean, at the beginning, I've shown a slide that there's a lot of things and data flowing around. I think a critical one would be, for example, the secure update mechanism, for example. So you really don't want to be able to have malicious data flashed into your vehicle ECUs, for example. Yeah. That would be just one of it. Maybe you can also have a look at V2X, where vehicles connect with each other and give each other information. So you really need this trust between them established in the PKI. Yeah, just to name 2 examples. But I mean, in the vehicle, there's really a lot.
Absolutely. So another question we have it. What is your proposal for PQ secure boot? As currently most chip vendors don't have a PQC capable ROT.
Yes. So, I mean, this should be part of your planning, right? That, I mean, current hardware most likely will not be able to perform post-quantum crypto. Maybe there are some vendors around who have a crypto lib, which is very efficient and fits on those older chips. But shifting to newer hardware will have to be part of your migration strategy. I'm pretty sure, yeah, especially for very low resource devices.
Thank you. Let me just refresh and check it if any further questions we have it. Check. Okay. I think we are done with the Q&A questions here. If anybody still have any questions, Dennis has agreed to be on the backstage. So please feel free to utilize, and you have more time saved in this session. So we have a visit to the booth, connect with the speaker, have your Q&A, and in the booth we have multiple vendors available. You can, or sponsors are available. You can connect with them, get to know about their services. So with that, I would like to give a big thank to our speaker and to all of you for tuning in. So thank you so much, and see you in the next session.
Right. Thanks a lot.